witches and wizards of the world! This is the Hogwarts Chaplain coming to you from the Room of Requirement, broadcasting across the globe on the WWN, the Word and Wizard Network. My friends in America, happy 4th of July! For those of you outside the United States, or for witches or wizards who are unaware, the 4th of July is a very important patriotic day in America, where flags are waved and parades are had and military music or parachuting or planes going through the sky or cannons going off, all marking the anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. My friends, we even have a copy of it here, right from the Hogwarts Library. Not the restricted section, my friends. Let me share with you one of the most important phrases. And you might not know this factoid about those phrases. My friends, Mr. Jefferson was known at the time that this was written to not want any input, really, from other people. He believed the draft that he had come up with should be passed without changes. But over time, he did ask a few people to make suggestions, and though he was known to reject most of them, he did ask one other person, Benjamin Franklin, for his input on Jefferson's draft. And Mr. Franklin had very little to change or to improve, but demanded that one word be changed. Jefferson ultimately agreed with Mr. Franklin, and the phrase we have now comes from both of them. Here is the phrase we are talking about. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Now, my friends, you must realize that that is not what Mr. Jefferson originally had written. What he had written was this. We hold these truths to be sacred, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. His word was sacred. That's what he wanted to call rights from God. But Mr. Franklin gave him some advice and said, instead of saying sacred, say instead self-evident. Because the word sacred says that these are religious truths. And what if people don't share your religion? Certainly, Mr. Franklin said, the United States will only take in more people in its future. And there will be fewer and fewer people that will share your particular view or would care about something sacred at all. No, he said, make a claim to rationality, that you would know these truths and you would defend them, perhaps die for them. Not because they are someone's sacred ideas, but because they are self-evident, that any person, any rational person, anyone's reason could agree that these rights need to be protected. And when they are not, when they are abused, when they are tread upon by anyone, a sovereign or a neighbor, that one must stand up and fight for those rights. Jefferson agreed to that change. And to this day, you can see old drafts that were sent between the two of them that had the words crossed out and the word sacred so crossed out you can't even see it in the draft. And then in Benjamin Franklin's handwriting in the margin, it says self-evident. And that, my friends, was an accomplishment. And we have to this day a document that appeals not to any particular religion, but instead to the rational person everywhere in all time. My friends, if you woke up this morning in America and were reading the Declaration of Independence, you perhaps missed other news stories that were in the Muggle press. In fact, there was one this morning that was so devastating, so depressing. I thought that I would just bring this Muggle newspaper with me and share it with you word for word. Here is the first paragraph of a story, the dateline, 4th of July. Here's the headline. An inspiring story ends in tears. The subtitle of the article, The United States' visa denial to an all-girl robotics team from Afghanistan is disappointing and self-defeating. My friends, this is not an op-ed page. This is a news story. And the story is so obscene on its face that a very credible newspaper felt that they could even call the story disappointing and self-defeating in the title of the story. Let me read you its first paragraph, and you can decide for yourself if you agree. When the members of an all-girl robotics team from Western Afghanistan learned that they were going to participate in the inaugural First Global Challenge, an international competition that will be held in the District of Columbia in July this month, they traveled 500 miles across Afghanistan to visit the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. The 6 teenagers risked this arduous journey, not once, but twice, hoping to secure a 1-week business travel visa to the United States. Their efforts ended in tears when their visa applications were denied. Now they will watch from afar as their robot competes without them. This is dispiriting, and for the United States, self-defeating. It is an end to what might have been an inspirational story. The team faced long odds, not least because they were girls striving for a technology-based education in Afghanistan. According to a recent Thomson Reuters Foundation expert poll, the country is the most dangerous in the world for women. Girls have been threatened with grenades and acid attacks for attending school, and 55% of school-age girls are currently missing out on an education. Science and engineering are especially male-dominant, making the team's achievements even more striking. My friends, I am not wearing my Hogwarts teaching robe because I am not speaking to you as a Hogwarts teacher. I am not speaking to you as the Hogwarts chaplain. Today, I am speaking to you as a citizen of the United States. These 6 teenage girls attend a school that is defended by United States soldiers. In fact, the fact that 45% of girls in Afghanistan are receiving an education is itself a testimony, a monument to over 15 years of war and thousands of men and women in the United States, your armed forces, that have been defending schools that educate girls. My friends, what the current Mongol president seems unaware of is that these 6 girls who are training in robotics, their very existence, the fact that they are alive and safe and have the opportunity to go to school at all, these are the fruits that come from the fields that are covered in the blood of American treasure and talent and lives. The current Mongol president has never visited that section in Arlington National Cemetery for victims of the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. He has not gone, as I and many other people have, to that section, to this day, and seen spread out on picnic blankets young men and women in their 20s or 30s, sometimes with small children, sitting next to the grave of their loved one, talking, singing, crying, praying. The current Mongol president has never visited that section. He has not seen firsthand the lives lost to build schools for girls in Afghanistan and to defend them and to clear the roads of IEDs meant to blow up not just American soldiers, but girls and the men that would bring them to school. My friends, of all the things that the current Mongol president has done, of all the indecencies and vulgarities and potential crimes, there is something about this story that I feel deep in my heart when the history of this sad political season is written. Something about this story tells me it will be in the coverage. The pictures of these girls will be in the textbooks because there is something about the callousness of not giving a travel visa to these girls because they are from Afghanistan. There is something about that decision. Whoever has made it, and a president who has allowed it to be made, something about that decision that serves as an emblem of the narcissism, the criminality, the disregard for human dignity, and the stupidity, not to mention the sacrilege, for the lives lost that girls in Afghanistan would receive an education. They wanted to come to this country and share with us what they have learned about math and science so that they could go home and continue to rebuild that country. That is the strategy we have had as a country. My friends, it is not hard to imagine that the past Mongol president, Mr. Obama, would have had these girls come to the White House while they were in town. I can picture it. He probably would have had family members of people who had died serving in Iraq and Afghanistan to meet these girls, to see the faces of the lives changed by the bloodshed. My friends, if you read the Declaration of Independence, it goes on to say that if a government comes to a point where it is not serving the self-evident human rights of its people, that government should not only be reevaluated, but resisted. So I ask you, my friends, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for stories worse than this? Worse than things we have already seen? My friends, you may say to yourself, it is either too early or too late to try to get people registered to vote for the next election. My friends, if you feel that way, then the current MAGA president and his party are succeeding. They are succeeding in depressing us that we would be suppressed when it is time to vote, to take at least one part of the government back for the opposing party, to begin to set up levers against the immorality and the utter disgrace of the current administration. I speak now not about politics or even about religion. I agree with Benjamin Franklin. Some things are self-evident. And the fact that in the last 48 hours, as this story has broken, a window of time in which any other president probably would have acted to right this wrong against the ridiculous travel ban once its effects are clear. Because Americans woke up this morning reading that it was the 4th of July. How many countries in the world read this as their first story? My friends, ask yourself what you can do now. Even if we have months and months to wait for the next vote, you do understand that there are people working in every state right now to suppress voting. Do something about that. Call, email, volunteer, give your money. Find a way. Revolutions take all different forms. But what we know from history is that more than half of the people whose signatures are on this document were dead within 2 years of signing it. And for the other half, most of them were maimed in the war or lost everything they had. There's just a few names that we know who survived. Many did not. That's what they were willing to do, faced with a sovereign violating the self-evident dignity of people. We are in that moment. At a certain point, you must ask yourself, what am I waiting for?